everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking today about my favourite books of 2019. I have 8 books to talk about kind of in depth, and then I also have 5 honourable mentions. So this is my top 13 books of 2019. I only gave 8 books 5 stars in 2019, so it's a small amount of books to talk about, but I feel like that really shows that these books were incredible. They deserve to be read by absolutely everyone. So the first book I want to talk about is the one that I probably talk about the most on my channel because I love it. It was my first 5-star read of the year and I've already reread it once. So that is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. If you've been around for a while, you're probably sick of me talking about this book, but it is absolutely incredible. The book is an adult fantasy. It's about a girl called Nari who discovers the world of the jinn. This fantasy world is inspired by Middle Eastern mythology. The author is Muslim, so it's own voices, and it's absolutely fantastic. So Nari, the main character, discovers this world and she has to go to this city, the City of Brass. I'm trying very hard not to spoil this book, but basically she gets involved in things that are going on at the palace and she has to try to navigate this new city that she's not really a part of because she's never lived there. There is so much going on in this book. It's quite a big one. It did take me about 100 pages to truly get into it, but after that first 100 pages I was flying through. I finished it in just a couple of sittings. I think I was going to read only 50 pages a day going by these tabs, but after the first 2 I just could not stop. It's truly a fantastic book. The characters are snarky, the relationships between all of the characters are really in-depth and well developed, well crafted. The stakes are really high, there are multiple points of view. I cannot recommend this book enough. If there is anything you want to take away from this video, then it should be to read The City of Brass because it's an amazing, amazing book. While we're on the topic of The City of Brass, another book that I rated 5 stars was the sequel, and that is The Kingdom of Copper. I've only read this one once. I loved it just as much as the first book, if maybe a tiny little bit less. It's slightly longer than the first book. It took me a bit longer to get into, and while I think it still had the same magic as the first book, because the world wasn't brand new to me, I wasn't as in awe of it, but I still gave it 5 stars because it's still amazing. You should still definitely check out this series. I can't really say anything about this one. It's basically a massive game changer and it doesn't suffer from middle book syndrome at all. I cannot wait for the 3rd book to come out in the summer of next year, 2020. It's going to be one that I pre-order and campaign for because it's an amazing, amazing series. The next book that I gave 5 stars to was one that was kind of a surprise hit for me, and that is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I'd heard some good things about this one, but it wasn't really overly hyped. It was one that I was just kind of interested in, and then my friend lent it to me and I absolutely fell in love with it. I don't really want to say too much about this one because it's kind of one that you go in knowing nothing about and then you gradually learn more and more and start to put things together. So I will say that it's set in an old manor and the main character wakes up with no memories. He can't remember how he got there, who he is, and then he gradually starts to learn more and more. He learns that he has to look into the death of Evelyn Hardcastle. I'm not going to tell you why he has to look into that death or how he goes about investigating, but I will tell you that this book is all over the place. It's timey-wimey stuff. You can tell that the author puts so much planning into this book. He's done an incredible job and you can tell that he must have been staring at his wall of post-it notes for the timeline to work out. It was crazy. So it goes back and forth between different characters and people and bodies. It's just kind of batshit insane. I really enjoyed it. It's such a good book and I would highly recommend picking this one up. I will say that it took a few pages to get into. I would say the first quarter was a bit confusing. It stayed confusing throughout the whole thing, but after the first quarter I realised that you're meant to be confused because the main character is. So really you just need to give this book a chance because it is very, very good and I was guessing right up to the very end. The next book I want to talk about is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. This was another surprise hit for me. So I had heard that it was a domestic thriller set in a small town. All the mums in this town are kind of gossiping and spreading rumours and things, and there's a murder. That is what this book is about, but I also wasn't expecting it to be so emotional. I read it while I was on holiday expecting a fast-paced thriller, but it's more of a low-key domestic type of thing about domestic abuse and friendship, and it made me really emotional. I really enjoyed it. It impacted me a lot and I didn't expect that. I have watched the TV show and I enjoyed it a lot, but it was not as good as the book. So if you've seen the show, I would highly recommend reading the book because although you'll know some stuff about the ending and you won't be as shocked as I was because the ending was quite shocking, it's still well worth reading the book to get to know the characters a bit better. Needless to say, I really enjoyed this one, cannot recommend it enough, and I really want to try some more of Liane Moriarty's work after reading this. The next one I picked out is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. Of course, I had to put a Becky Chambers book on this list. I have loved every single one of her books that I've read so far. I cannot wait for her to come out with more. She's a really talented writer. I adore everything that she has written. To Be Taught is just a novella, so it was very short, so it didn't take me very long to get through at all. The crew of this spaceship, who are venturing out onto other planets for scientific research purposes, and it's kind of about their struggles and moral obligations and crises, and it's really wholesome, really, really good. It felt like every single one of her other books. It's absolutely fantastic, and she packed so much emotion into this short novella. I'm just in awe of her. I think Becky Chambers is a fantastic writer, and I will continue reading everything that she writes until the end of time. Now I'm going to talk about The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I gave this one 5 stars as well, obviously. It's one of the best books of 2019. This one is adult fantasy. It came out in 2018, and it was quite controversial because there were so many trigger warnings surrounding this book because it's a very, very dark book. It's set in a fantasy world in a country that is quite clearly inspired by China, and this country inspired by China has been at war, or almost at war, with a country that is quite clearly inspired by Japan. So the whole book is inspired by real life history and politics surrounding those two countries and more. The book follows a war orphan called Rin, who gets herself into this military academy all by herself. She does a fantastic job of that. She trains, and then all of a sudden war breaks out, and she and her classmates are caught up in it. It's dark and quite terrifying. I knew that I would enjoy this book, and it took me ages to pick it up because I knew that I was going to be consumed by it, and I was. It's just an incredible book. It's really, really dark. I will keep telling you this, really, really dark. But I was kind of expecting that one chapter, I can't remember which number it was, but all of the trigger warnings and content warnings are on the author's website. If you want to go and check out that post before you read this book, I would probably recommend it. But I was expecting the main character to be more affected by this dark stuff that is happening than she was, so I'm quite glad that she wasn't, because it meant that I was able to deal with those things a bit more easily. But anyway, this was a fantastic book. It was really fast paced. I had no problem getting into it. The first half was basically teaching all of the military stuff at this academy. So there was boarding school stuff, and then there was war and empire drama stuff, and it's very, very good. Would highly recommend it. Then there was an adult thriller, and that is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I recently read all of Ruth Ware's books in an attempt to find out which one is the best, and this one is the best. I read The Turn of the Key in one sitting. It's a very fast-paced and atmospheric book. It's set in the Highlands in Scotland. I could not get enough of it. The mystery of the book was so much fun to read about and pick apart. I was kind of onto something, and then I kept changing my mind about what had happened, and it was really creepy and atmospheric at times because this house that it's set in is a smart house, and they have smart locks and smart windows and tablets and things all over the place, and it was really, really creepy. It's definitely the best one that Ruth Ware has written, and I can't wait to see what she comes out with in the future. Okay, so finally, the 8th best book of 2019 for me was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read this one as an audiobook, and I have to say I'm not sure I would have the same feelings about it if I had read it as a physical book, because the audiobook was just so well done. It's narrated by a full cast of characters. Cheryl from Archer is in there as well, and she made the character of Karen. One of my favourites. I think the audiobook was done flawlessly. I cannot recommend it enough. Even if you don't listen to that many audiobooks, I would say pick this one up because it's really, really well done. I don't even care about music and rock stars that much, which is what this book is primarily about. Basically, Daisy Jones and the Six are a band from the 80s, I think, and they're doing an interview years and years later talking about their experience and how they met, came together, and why they broke apart. So while I wouldn't normally care about any of that stuff, I did with this book because it was so well written, so well narrated, and I got really connected to all of the characters. I thought it was fantastic. Those are the best books of 2019 in my opinion. I do have some honourable mentions to quickly talk about. I'm not going to go into much detail about these, I'm just going to quickly list them off. First of all, we have The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is the final book in this Arc of the Scythe trilogy. It was fantastic, super long but fantastic. Flatshare by Beth O'Leary, which was a adult contemporary and it made me cry. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which fucked me up. The Five which was, I also listened to as an audiobook, and it's non-fiction about the victims who were killed by Jack the Ripper, and it delves into their lives and their situations and how they came to be killed. That was a fantastic book and I adored it. Almost gave it 5 stars, and I probably would in hindsight, but I only gave it 4 at the time. And finally The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which also fucked me up but in a different way to Dark Matter. It was really, really good. Those are all of my favourite books of 2019. I hope that 2020 is going to be equally fantastic, if not more so. I hope that I read more 5-star books, but to be honest, I kind of want to reread all of these instead. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what your favourite books of 2019 were in the comments below, and I'll speak to you in my next video. Bye!